আমি হৃদ মাঝারে রাখবো ছেড়ে দেব না.
Let us visit rural West Bengal in the 1980s, when Kamarpukur and Jayrambati were still villages and people lived in mud houses with thatched roofs. Life was simple. Time passed slowly. People and animals lived in harmony, as this is the holy land of Red Earth. The divine was born in these villages in the forms of Sri Ramakrishna and Sri Sharada Devi. Walking through the village of Kamarpukur, you are entertained by life all around you. In the 1980s, they still used a husking machine to remove the chaff of grains of rice. This is where it all began. One day in 1835, Sri Ramakrishna's mother, Chandra Devi, stood in front of this temple, the Jugi Shiva temple. She saw a light coming from the Shiva lingam inside. The light entered her womb and she instinctively knew that she was with child.
O mon guru bhajore ওরে সোনার চাঁদ দিল দরিয়ায় উঠলে তুফান কে দিবে আশান ও মন গুরু ভজরে.
Sri Ramakrishna was born in 1836 in a small husking shed that stood on the very spot where his altar is today.
উঠলে তুফান কে দিবে আশান ও মন গুরু ভজরে. Guru bhaja guru chinta guru karasa.
Chandra Devi's modest home has become a large temple compound that today is maintained by the Ramakrishna order. The Kamarpukur altar is unique and differs from others built by the order. Instead of the usual engraving of a swan underneath the marble statue of Sri Ramakrishna, there is an engraving of a husking machine. Sri Ramakrishna is very much present here and still takes his naps in his room. After the worship and food offering in the temple, the pujari symbolically walks Sri Ramakrishna from the inside of the temple all the way back to his room by dripping water from a kamandalu.
Jai Guru, Jai Guru, Jai Guru.
The small temple of Raghuvir is not maintained by the monks. The daily worship is performed by the descendants of Sri Ramakrishna's family. Inside the shrine are the goddess Shitala in the form of a water pot, a Shiva lingam Sri Ramakrishna's father Kudiram brought from Rameshwaram, a Raghuvir Shalagram, and a Narayana Shalagram. This is Kanai Ghoshal and his son Tarak in the 1980s. Sri Ramakrishna's brother Rameshwar had two sons, Ramlal and Shivaram. Kanai Ghoshal is the grandson of Shivaram. Kanai agreed to let his son Tarak enact some of the scenes of Sri Ramakrishna's boyhood days as Gadai. Here, Tarak is running around the mango tree Sri Ramakrishna himself planted. Tarak's next acting job was to walk in the field called Lakshmi Jala. This field was given to Kuliram, Sri Ramakrishna's father, for the maintenance of his family. Then Tarak as Gadai was told to run next to the Kamarpukur pond and sit down for meditation. Then came Tarak's big scene at the Kamarpukur school, where he had to enact Gadai's unwillingness to study for a bread-earning education. With the help of Kanai, we rounded up many village children who sat inside the school with a would-be teacher. Tarak, as Gadai, was instructed to run outside the school in an act of rebellion. The payment for acting was candies, and all the children lined up to receive their share.
ছাড়ো ছাড়ো ত্রিভঙ্গ কালো রঙ্গ করুণা ছাড়ো ছাড়ো ত্রিভঙ্গ কালো রঙ্গ করুণা পথ মাঝে রঙ্গ করুণা পথ মাঝে রঙ্গ করুণা রঙ্গ করুণা ছাড়ো ছাড়ো ত্রিভঙ্গ কালো রঙ্গ করুণা ছাড়ো ছাড়ো ত্রিভঙ্গ.
This is the ancient Gopeshwar Shiva temple. Chandra Devi came here often to pray.
রঙ্গ করুণা
Gadai exhibited an independent will early on in his life. This is the house of Dani Kamarini, who belonged to the blacksmith caste. Gadai had promised that she would be the first person he would accept alms from after his sacred thread ceremony. He kept his promise in spite of villagers raising alarm, since this was against Brahminical rule.
বেলা গেল ও ললিতে কৃষ্ণ এলো না বেলা গেল ও ললিতে কৃষ্ণ এলো না ও যে রামনি হতভাগী ও তোর কপাল ভালো না বেলা গেল ও ললিতে কৃষ্ণ এলো না.
Little remains of the Sitanath Pine Vishnu temple today. It's a significant place because here, Gadai dressed up as Shiva for a Shivaratri play, but could not perform the part because he became overwhelmed with ecstasy. Kamarpukur is famous for a sweet called jalebi. It's usually safe to eat these freshly prepared sweets from street-side vendors.
Bela gelo ololite Krishna elo na.
On the outskirts of Kamarpukur at Anur is a temple dedicated to the goddess Vishalakshi. People vow offerings to the goddess with the hope that the goddess will fulfill their desire. One day, some village women took little Gadai along with them on a pilgrimage to this temple, and to the great alarm of his companions, his body became stiff and he went into ecstasy.
আমি চাতক হয়ে থাকবো মাগো সাধন আকাশে আমি চাতক হয়ে থাকবো মাগো সাধন আকাশে আমি দেখবো মাগো কবে তোমার দেখবো মাগো কবে তোমার কৃপা বরষে.
Not far from Kamarpukur are the once feared fields of Telobello. After dark, robbers plundered and even murdered villagers who dared to pass. Sri Sharda Devi one day got stuck at Telobello after dark. Walking from Jayrambati to Dakshineshwar, she had fallen behind her companions. A tall dacoit came out from the bushes and was about to attack Sri Sharda Devi when he had a vision of Kali. Immediately transformed, the dacoit and his wife gave shelter to Sri Sharda Devi for the night and then accompanied her all the way to Dakshineshwar. Today, there is a Kali temple and a temple dedicated to Sri Sharda Devi. In order to take these peaceful pastoral scenes, one had to strike a bargain with the village children who kept jumping in front of the camera. They crowded behind the camera and then had their big moment to be photographed as a group, including their puppy dog.
Jaima!
Sri Ramakrishna occasionally visited Hridayaram's house in Shihor. It does not look like things have changed much since Sri Ramakrishna's time. Hriday's family still lives in the compound. Sri Ramakrishna used to take rest on this bed. The family maintains a small shrine where they keep Sri Ramakrishna's handwriting under lots of mothballs in a silver box. When you walk along the narrow country road toward Jayrambati, you can feel the timelessness of the place. The red earth makes you feel that you are walking on sacred ground. Life is simple in the rural village, and probably not much has changed in 100 years. Farmers still use age-old methods to irrigate and take care of their fields. While walking from Shihor to Jayrambati, Shyama Sundari heard a jingling sound coming from this bell tree. Looking up, she saw a little girl climbing down from the tree. The girl embraced her, and Shyama Sundari felt something entering her body. Sri Sharda Devi, lovingly called Holy Mother, was born in 1853 as the eldest daughter of Ramachandra and Shyama Sundari Mukhopadhyaya. Sharda grew up in this rural setting, a sweet sensory perception of sounds, smells, and images. Descendants of Holy Mother's family still live in Jayrambati. Following ancient Indian customs, generations of their extended family live together in this large house. Jayrambati village is one big community. That was especially true in the 1980s. Everybody knows each other and about each other. Villagers work together. Villagers pray to Simhavahani to cure them of disease. After a lengthy illness, Holy Mother also went to this temple to pray for a cure and kept some of Simhavahani's sacred earth, which is believed to have great healing propensities. We are entering Nutanbari, Holy Mother's new house. This much more spacious house was built for Holy Mother by Swami Sharadananda. This is Holy Mother's kitchen. A village woman is putting cow dung patties on a house for drying. Cow dung is used to disinfect and purify houses. It is also used as fuel for cooking. Smells quite nice, like bread baking. Kualpara is 8 kilometers from Jayrambati. It is the only ashram where Holy Mother installed a photo of Sri Ramakrishna and her photo side by side. Walking distance from the Kualpara ashram is a small building called Jagadamba Ashram, where Holy Mother practiced intense sadhana after Sri Ramakrishna's passing. When a pilgrim asked to be shown how to get there, the Kualpara Swami would call, "Sahib!" Promptly, a big dog would appear. Looking at the pilgrim, with his head motioning to follow him, Sahib would take you all the way to heaven. That's what it feels like when you close the door and sit in the same room where Holy Mother performed sadhana. The early morning hours in India are magic. Meditation comes naturally when one listens to the sounds of birds, conches, worship bells, and villagers calling out, performing their early morning chores. Holy Mother was born on the spot where her altar is today. In the morning, the temple is usually quiet. Today there is a dak player. It's the end of the festival honoring Saraswati, the goddess of learning.
Yeah, 1 minute over.
Puja is over. In the evening, the clay image of Saraswati gets immersed in a nearby pond. All the villagers come out to get a last look and participate in the procession. The clay image got immersed, and the marble image of Holy Mother, who is an embodiment of Saraswati, remains in the temple.